Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the HMSDC 2022 annual meeting. We're so excited about our plans for this year and so excited to be with you. We wish we could be together in person as originally planned, but COVID has made sure that that couldn't happen. So we will be having our signature events in person whenever possible based on COVID guidelines, but we thank you so much for being here with us this morning. So we want to begin with the recognition of our sponsors. We're happy to have them with us today. Our Gold MBE sponsor, MBN News Texas. Our Bronze Corporate sponsor, Calpine. And our Bronze MBE sponsor, Zones. We also want to give you an opportunity to meet HMSDC for those of you who may not be familiar with those that lead our organization. So we'll start with our board of directors. Our chairman, Archie Meyer, our vice chairman, James Brown Rigg of Turner Construction, our treasurer, Eileen Perillo with Shell Oil Company, our secretary, David Wilson of Accenture, a new member of our board, Maxine Buckles from Port Houston, Keith Davis, the CEO for Avasca Media Group. Many of you know him as D. Mars. Julie Deal with Alvarez and Marsal. She is a returning board member who once served on the board for Pennzoil Quaker State here at the council. So she's been a longtime supporter. Andy Icken with the City of Houston. Nadeem Mazar with Custom Technology Solutions. Paula Mendoza with Possible Missions, Nanette Ray, President of TNR Accounting and Management Consultants, and Troy Taylor, President and CEO of Taylor Construction Management, now known as TCM, and Calvin Wright with UT MD Anderson Cancer Center. We also want to give you an opportunity to get to know those members of our staff. Angela Freeman is our Senior Director of Corporate Services, Thomas Nash, our Director of MBE Services, and Sabita Singh, our Operations Project Manager, who rounds out our leadership team, and you'll hear from them in just a short while. Jane Vo, our MBE Development Specialist, Selena Gonzalez, our Certification Specialist, and Karen Nguyen, our Communication Specialist. So I wanted to talk to you about what I call my President's Message, or our service promise. I promise to you guys that we will make sure that we're executing impactful programs, that we're driving certification efficiency, meaning improving the process so that it is as quick as possible to get MBEs through the certification or recertification procedures. We want to connect MBEs to business opportunities. We're going to leverage our strategic relationships that we've cultivated over the last 49 years support corporate supplier diversity program development, and of course, recruit new corporate members and MBEs to the council to make sure that we're meeting the needs of both the MBEs and having new companies that they can do business with, and the corporations to help them drive supplier diversity into their companies. So a little bit about our agenda for today. We're going to start with a recap of 2021, followed by an overview, which is what we're really here for, our 2022 strategic plan. We'll talk about the departmental focuses, where you'll hear from the leaders of each of those departments. We'll also have an address from the HMSDC as what's happening on a national level. We'll have a leadership Q&A. We're really excited about that because it's a live Q&A. You'll be able to raise your hand, ask your question, and we'll provide insight and information, because we want this meeting to be both informational for you, but we also want to make sure that we're answering the burning questions that you have. We'll follow that with our standing committee plan of works. And so they'll give you an overview of our standing committees and what we do here at the council. The council could not function without these committees and these leaders in our organization who have stepped up to make sure that HMSDC is successful. Followed by the MBE development program graduation. Jane has been hard at work with our MBEs over the last year, really working to develop our MBEs and making sure that they're corporate ready and that they're able to remove those barriers to doing business with our company. So we're excited about that graduation. And then we'll have closing remarks and a call to action from our chairman, Archie Meyer, who is not able to be with us yet this morning. He had something come up, a family emergency that he's dealing with this morning, but he will be joining us later on in the broadcast. So we're looking forward to this. We're excited. This team has brought such dynamic opportunities to us that we are streaming live via Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn for those companies who want to participate but didn't get an opportunity to register. So I want to thank the 200 plus corporate members, MBEs, and community partners that are joining us today. So we're really excited about that. So here we go. Recap on 2021. So in terms of corporate membership in our community partners, we have some of Houston's largest private and public employers actively involved in the council. We have over 60 local corporate members. We have over 500 plus national corporate members throughout the HMSDC network that we interact with on a regular basis. And we're partnering for impact with over 100 community partner organizations. There's a lot of information out there, and what we want to do is be able to leverage that and provide information and coordinate, where possible, opportunities so that you can value your time and that you can partner not only with HMSDC, but with other organizations to make the most of that time, because we know that your time is extremely valuable. Our MBEs. So we have grown tremendously over the course of the last year. We grew by over 100 MBEs. We have 823 certified minority business enterprises at the end of 2021. So we worked poor Selena to death, but we're excited about doing that. If you look at the composition of HMSDC's membership, 44% are Black American, 27% Hispanic American, 18% Asian Indian American, and 9% Asian Pacific American, and 2% Native American. So we think not only is it important that we continue to build and grow our certified MBE base, but we're also looking this year to diversify even more the composition of that diversity of our MBEs. If you were to look at our MBE certification by class and revenue growth, this is something that I'm always asked about. One is our class 1 MBEs. 53% of HMSDC's MBEs are class 1, meaning generating revenue less than $1 million. This past year, we grew that portion of our membership base by 29%. Of that, when we look at the revenues generated by those firms, those revenues were up with the average revenue of $230,729 per MBE firm. Our class 2 this year was sort of our rock stars. Class 2 MBEs generate revenue between $1 million and $10 million. We had a 111% increase in the number of class 2 firms that we brought into the council. This is a direct relation to the request from our corporate members to identify firms that might be just a little bit larger that they could use directly into their supply chain, and making sure we had opportunities for both class 1 and class 2 for their prime suppliers. Out of our class 2 MBEs, revenue was up as well. Over $3.5 million was the average revenue of those firms. That's a 2% increase over their 2020 revenue numbers. For our class 3 MBEs, which generate revenue between $10 million and $50 million, we also saw an increase in those firms joining the organization, with 9% increase in class 3 firms. 12% of our MBEs in the council belong to this class of revenue. Their average revenue was over almost $22 million, and that was a 6% increase over the previous year. Our class 4, which is our largest class of MBEs, generating revenue over $50 million. That comprises 5% of our MBE population. That was a 15% growth that we had in targeting those large companies to join HMSDC and see the value that we're bringing. So we're really excited about that growth. However, we did see a drop in revenue for those firms by over 7%.
Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Level up, 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 level up.
So now we're going to begin and take a look at our 2022 strategic plan. The quality events and intentional programming that we're looking to bring to the council is divided into what I call 575. We're trying to make it easier to remember the things that we do. As we talked about last year, we went through an entire sort of reboot and we redefined our service value delivery model. We looked at what we did as a council and came up with what we call a service delivery model for the future, which focuses on us doing 3 things and doing those 3 things really well. We have 5 signature events that we do every year. One is our annual meeting, our Chief Procurement Officer Summit, our Emerging 10 Awards, Expo, and our Scholarship Fundraiser. Those are the events that we hope to be able to bring you in person this year. We have 7 developmental initiatives that we undergo here at the council on an annual basis. Our CEO Conversations, which is a targeted program for our class 3s and 4s. Our executive coaching program, which is open to all MBEs. Our MBE Accelerator, which we're happy to announce that will be launched in Q2. Our MBE Leadership Academy, which is for our class 1s and 2s. Our Pathways to Excellence, which is for all MBE classes. Supplier Idol is for all MBE classes. And Total Business Development is for all MBE classes, but is a specific initiative meant and to target our professional services firms and providing opportunities for them to assist MBEs within the council and outside of the council with critical business needs and services that they could provide while they build a portfolio of projects that they've been able to accomplish and work and promote MBE to MBE work. So we're really excited about that. And then we have 5 what we call marketplace connectors. Those are the events that are strictly focused on bringing buyers and sellers together. This is where we connect MBEs to our corporate members. corporate members being both public and private sector entities. So we will do how to do business sessions. We do those with new incoming corporate members. And then we have something called Industry Day that we're going to be announcing this year, with the first one coming up shortly in February, which are targeted towards specific industries where we'll share information and insight. We have industry forums that will be brought to you. Again, part of what we're focusing on now is how do we bring industry information to you? How do we help you understand what's happening in those key industries operating here in Houston, both emerging industries and the predominant industries that we have here. Lead conversations. We kicked that off a couple years ago, and it is key to have senior executives from both the public and the private sector to be able to share with you key information on what's happening in industry, in business, and in the community sometimes. So we'll have lead conversations throughout the year. Our lunch with the president, this is one of the things that I love the most, is the opportunity for me to hear directly from you and for us to have dialogue and discussion about business topics that are relevant to growing your business. And then our matchmakers, Angela and her team are going to be really busy this year. Again, it's all about making those connections and bringing corporations, government agencies together with our MBEs. So we're excited to do that. So 575, 5 signature events, 7 developmental programs, and 5 marketplace connectors. Now, our theme for this year, and the reason why we talked about leveling up at that beginning slide for our strategic plan, is that is our theme for 2022. We're leveling up, and we're inviting you and encouraging you to level up with us. Part of doing that is to make sure that we're able to show leadership. We're going to drive the agenda for MBE development and capacity building. We've been working with the governmental agencies over the past year around disparity studies to identify where minority businesses are not getting their fair share of opportunities and how to go about driving change in those areas. And we were very successful involved with both the city of Houston, Metro, the county, and Port Houston in completing their disparity studies. And once those disparity studies were complete, helping them to develop programs and initiatives and processes to ensure minority businesses are getting their fair share. So what we're going to be doing in 2022 is expanding that to colleges and universities, talking to them about a fund that the Harris County recently created to provide additional support and money for those entities to be able to do disparity studies, so that they can have formal supplier diversity programs with a legal structure around it to ensure that we're infusing those opportunities into, as Angela likes to say, the supply chain procurement process. We don't want them to have just programs and initiatives. We want to make sure that minority business development is included in the process so that it's something that you just do, not something that you think about in addition to your normal sourcing activities. We're going to be working with the local county governments for engagement with both the city and the county. We have a lot of new leaders in our city and in our county, and so it's important that we talk about building capacity and finding opportunities for that. We're also partnering with the Greater Houston Partnership on their One Houston Together initiative. We've been involved in that from the beginning, and we're so excited to work with LaTanya Felix and Bob Harvey, the president of the partnership, on these key business initiatives around how do we get, again, corporations to embrace and identify ways in which we can move the needle on minority business development. So we're going to continue with that leadership role. And then we've been engaged over the past year with the Houston Galveston Area Council. We know that the ARPA money is coming down from the federal infrastructure program. There are going to be a lot of opportunities and a lot of money coming into our state and into our city and our county. And we want to make sure that our minority businesses are connected to that. So we're going to be working very closely with HGAC as they look at our regional developmental plan and make recommendations to our state and local officials on what projects we should prioritize and making sure that MBEs are included in those projects. We're also looking at increasing our sphere of influence in emerging and growth industries. So we have targeted specific industries that are high growth and those that are emerging in this market. And we want to make sure that we're including in those opportunities. So healthcare, construction, transportation, information technology, with Google and Facebook and or Meta, I'm sorry, and others coming into this market, we want to make sure that we're providing opportunities, aerospace and renewable energy, and the move to that. So I'm glad to see that we have MBEs already in the council who are pivoting into that space. And we want to make sure that we're sharing information on that and having MBEs included as we see a growth in these new markets. That was the L. Now we're going on to E, expansion. So HMSDC service territory is a lot larger than the greater Houston area. Our service territory includes College Station. It includes Corpus Christi. We go down to the Louisiana border. And so we want to make sure that we're strengthening partnerships and delivering a larger group of MBEs to our corporations where they have facilities and information. So we are proud to partner with Rockefeller Foundation. We're going to be having some exciting news that we're going to be sharing about that in Q2, creating opportunities for MBEs, driving more development into the council. Again, our partnership with the Greater Houston Partnership is very important to us. We'll continue to work with our ethnic chambers of commerce that we've been closely aligned with, and then making sure that we stay aligned with the U.S. Small Business Administration as they implement many programs and help facilitate dollars from the federal government to the state. We're also focused on increasing our media coverage through effective marketing to tell our stories. I think that that's something that we know we needed to improve on, which is why we brought Karen into the council so that she could begin to share with you some of the information and make sure that we're telling your stories. And when I talk about telling our stories are your stories. That means talking about what our MBEs and our corporations are doing in the community, how we're impacting supplier diversity, what our MBEs are doing to grow their businesses and contribute back to the greater Houston economy. So we're going to be partnering again with Houston Business Journal, who has been our partner for 25 plus years now. I'm dating myself, but we're going to be working even closer with the Houston Business Journal to make sure that MBEs are featured in some of the articles that they will be having throughout the year when they're looking for experts to be able to talk about what's happening in these different industries, that they come to us and look at HMSDC for MBEs that they could speak to who are in those markets to make sure that they're seeing and understanding the expertise that you bring to the table and your perspective. KPRC Channel 2. We also have ABC News and Minority Business News that we'll be partnering with throughout the year. Now we go to V, value. This is the most important piece, I think, that you look for. We are going to be results driven and we want to measure our impact. We want to talk about optimizing the certification process and reducing it down to at least 30 days from the time that all your documents are completed, that we get you support and we get you in and out of the process as much as possible. We also want to track our procurement opportunities. We're not only going to be tracking and sharing those, but we want to be able to hear from you. So you'll be hearing from us, and we hope that you will get back to us and tell us what opportunities you're actually winning, what bids are you actually being invited to participate in. So there's one thing to share information about opportunities. There's a difference to be able to understand, are you getting an actual opportunity to bid on that work? And if you are, did you win that work? And what's the value of that? So we're going to begin to start to track that over the course of 2022 and be able to report back out to you. So again, we're going to need your support and making sure that we're getting the information back from you and feedback so that we can provide that feedback to our corporate members, both public and private sector. And those opportunities are going to be more targeted. So we're also developing a shared resource tools, and we want to share our resource tools and templates so that corporate members can leverage them to grow their supplier diversity programs, and MBEs can leverage them to gain insight into industries and grow their business. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what those things are as we go throughout the year. But we're really excited for the technology that we're getting from CTS, Nadeem on our board, and some tools that we're implementing that will help us to do that. Now go back to E, execution. So if effective service delivery model is crucial to us being able to be an effective organization for you. That means bringing all of the key components of HMSDC together through our CRM deployment. So we have Custom Technology Solutions who is creating a custom technology for us that not only allows us to be able to more effectively communicate with you, but phase one will be implementing very soon, allows us as an organization to be able to better understand our engagement with you. It's going to help us to bring together both our MBE services, corporate services, operations, and marketing groups together with our committees to make sure that we're communicating information back to you and being able to track that information. Being able to tie our revenue to our marketing efforts is going to be crucial to see what is it that you truly value and allow us to be able to customize those solutions. So we're really excited about that. Phase two is going to be a phase where you will have access to the system, and we'll talk more about that for Q2, where we're able to implement that. But this gives us insight that we can share with governmental entities as we go into a legislative session in 2023. We want to make sure that we have the tools to be able to share with elected officials not only the impact that you're having in your own businesses, but the impact that minority business has on our state, on our government, and in specific legislative districts. So we're going to be implementing some really powerful tools that will help enable the efforts of the council. And then finally, leverage. When we talk about leveraging, we're talking about not only leveraging those relationships, but we're going to leverage what we do best. This is what we know. We know how to build capacity and provide technical assistance to MBEs. We know our industry, how to provide industry insights and business opportunities through the companies and the executives that are involved in the council and relationships that we've cultivated over the years. And then providing you with access to leaders and decision makers. That 575 fits in those three buckets. And so we're going to make sure that we're building capacity and providing technical assistance to MBEs. We're providing both industry insight and business opportunities to our MBEs and their prime suppliers of our major corporations, and then providing access to the leaders and the decision makers in those companies so that you can build relationships, because we know people do business with people they know, trust, and respect. And so we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to do that. So we're going to leverage our expertise and what we do best to make sure that we're delivering on our service promise to you as an organization. So now I'd like to switch over into our first member of our leadership team, Ms. Angela Freeman, our Senior Director of Corporate Services. And Angela will walk you through some of the key focus areas for corporate services in 2022.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Freeman, Senior Director of Corporate Services for Houston Minority Supply Development Council. I'm so excited to be here today. And thank you all for joining us. Now we're excited about 2022 as we level up. In corporate services, and as far as expanding our network with the public and private sector, we're cultivating those relationships in order to increase opportunity for our minority-owned businesses. That means more networking, more relationship building, and more contractual opportunities. Also, the source and procurement opportunities, we are coordinating with our corporations and our government entities to promote corporate events to identify and certify minority-owned businesses with matchmaking events, which Ms. Robertson spoke about earlier. We're expanding our matchmaking in order to introduce minority-owned businesses to the buying sector. And this gives them an opportunity to cultivate relationships with individuals that are in the industry that they may or may not know about, and expanding new opportunities. Also, we're very excited about transitioning supply diversity from a program into a procurement process. This is one of the areas that we're truly focusing on. Everything that we're doing in corporate services leads to procurement opportunities, which mean that We no longer want to be looked at as a programmatic, but we want to be seen as part of the procurement process in order to increase the utilization of minority-owned businesses. Now, how are we going to do this? We're leveling up. Under leadership, we have a supply diversity kit and and we're also producing a program managers training. So our supply diversity kit gives an opportunity for our corporations to enhance their programs with resources and templates that are components of our level of excellence survey. The level of excellence survey gives our corporation the chance to benchmark their program. So they will take this assessment, benchmark where they are, and identify areas where they need to grow. We will provide them with resources and templates in order to do this. For the first time, Houston Minority Supply Development Council is hosting our first program managers training. This gives another opportunity for our corporations to come out and enhance their program. It's a one-day training opportunity which tracks from corporations who are just starting their program to corporations that are mature in their program. Expansion, onboarding, and business reviews. So as we get our new corporations in, we want to make sure that we onboard them and orientate them on the council, the programs that we have to offer, and how they can enhance their programs in increasing their business opportunities. We want to assist them in reaching their minority participation goals and enhancing that. Also, the business reviews. We will sit down with our corporations, have a candid conversation of where they are in their program, what opportunities they see forecasting coming down, and what type of suppliers they're looking for. We want to make sure that we're very strategic and targeted in identifying minority businesses. We're not just pushing a list, we're actually providing referrals of MBEs who have the capability and the capacity to provide the services. With value procurement forecasts. So we're also asking our corporate members and government entities to provide us with their forecasts of what they're buying. We don't want to look at what's here right now currently and those very short term turnarounds on minority business referrals. We want to make sure that we can work with our MBEs in advance, prepare them for the opportunities, ensure they have the capability and capacity, and ensure that we're building relationships. So with the procurement forecast, that gives us a way in advance opportunity to know what's coming down the pipeline and what type of suppliers we need to be working with. And execution, the supply diversity program development. Again, we're helping our corporations to grow their program and move their program from just networking into the procurement process. We want to ensure that we help them to get to the table with the procurement and the procurement team and understand what's coming down the pipeline, what type of suppliers are required, and how HMSDC can help them to identify those suppliers. Prime engagement and community participation. This gives us an opportunity to go beyond just our corporate members. We're looking at their prime suppliers. We're encouraging prime suppliers to become part of HMSDC to help them identify minority-owned businesses. We also want to make sure that we're cultivating those relationships with the primes for that indirect spend for our MBEs and ensure that we can expand the utilization of minority businesses across all their supply chain. So within corporate services, we are also leveling up on what we're doing in order to increase opportunities for minority businesses, enhance the programs of our corporations and government entities, and also move supply diversity from just a program into a procurement process where there is action. So at this time, I would like to introduce my colleague and teammate, Mr. Thomas Nash, Director of MBE Services. Go for it, Thomas.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Angela. I am TJ Nash, the Director of MBE Services with HMSDC. And in MBE Services, we manage the certification process and ensure the integrity of the MSDC certification guidelines for minority business enterprises in Houston and our surrounding service territory. We create and execute programs and initiatives that prepare our minority businesses to meet the supplier needs of private corporations and public entities. Then we recruit MBEs in product and service areas that meet the sourcing needs of our corporate members and working with our colleagues over in corporate services. The focus for our 2022 is leveling up, and leadership is going to be with regards to our developmental programs and these initiatives that Ms. Robinson mentioned earlier in the 575. We're the seventh. And those developmental initiatives are designed to assist our MBEs in scaling their businesses through targeted training, technical assistance, to strengthen their ability to compete effectively in ever-changing business marketplaces. Our MBEs benefit from the credibility, training, coaching, and mentoring in management, technical capabilities, financials, and procurement assistance. Expanding access to key decision makers and procurement executives are key benefits of completing the HMSDC developmental programs. Expansion. Our MBE recruitment and retention is going to be assisted by deploying our programs and our outreach efforts across a wider span of our service territory. It's essential to an expanding business geography across the counties and outside of the greater Houston area. Our focus is to ensure that our service promise and our service delivery models align with the perception of our stakeholders at all times, ensuring a consistent approach to grow certified minority businesses across our geographic service territory. Diverse ethnic groups, product services, and revenue classes are important to meeting the needs of our growing corporate membership. Value. Our MBE coaching, engagement, and committee participation means that our active MBE involvement in the council is critical. We expect our minorities to participate, and our minority business owners with corporate decision makers in making those matches. We expect that participation. MBEs also play an essential role in ensuring that the staff, board of directors understands the needs of the certified MBEs. And while we understand the needs of each MBE company may vary, it is through coaching, engagement, and active committee participation that we meet those needs and provide the support to grow and expand. It is through active committee participation that friendships, support, and meaningful connections are built. Execution, certification, and subscription services. While the MSDC certification guidelines that HMSDC administers is considered the certification gold standard and is the only nationally recognized certification for minority business enterprises by the private sector, MBEs are seeking more value in local markets. HMSDC's reputation for quality is being expanded by reducing processing time for new and renewing certifications. The value of its certification is being increased through our MOUs with all local and state certification entities to accept and expedite certification for HMSDC certified MBEs and our subscriber MBEs. The last focus is leverage. We are implementing MBE business reviews and strong capability matches with our corporate members. And understanding the needs of the MBEs and the challenges they face in the marketplace is essential to our efforts to remove barriers to business opportunities and to build the capacity of MBEs. With the institution of the MBE business reviews, we will use this insight to communicate challenges to corporate members and develop programs and solutions to meet their needs. HMSDC will also work closely with MBEs to ensure that their capability statements are accurate representations of their business offerings to improve the accuracy of our sourcing and matching for private and public sector business opportunities. So that's a little bit about MBE services. At this point, I'm pleased to introduce my colleague, Dr. Sabita Singh, who is our HMSDC Operations and Project Manager. Take it away, Sabita.
5.
Good morning, everyone.
3,
Thank
2,
you
1.
for taking the time off to be with us today. It is our pleasure to showcase what we're up to at HMSDC. I'm the Operations and Projects Manager, and I kind of sit in the engine room of all the stuff that's going on at HMSDC. As part of our operations and marketing functions, our key objective is to scale HMSDC's service delivery model and leverage on human and machine intelligence that would enable us to drive our operational efficiencies. What does this mean to you? It means that you will have a better customer experience. Our key objective is to ensure that we have member service satisfaction levels that are set pretty high. Our other objective is focusing on innovation in terms of the organization to enable smarter and faster decision making that is driven and supported by data. A big part of the operational role is to oversee the council's operations. And as we do this, we're going to focus on increasing awareness, promoting programs and events that increase overall engagement with HMSDC. Tying back to what my colleagues shared with you on the Level Up team, from an operational and program management perspective, when we talk leadership, we're going to talk about agile operations management. We're going to be intentional in how we plan our events and how we run the day-to-day operations of the council. At the end of every event, we would be seeking feedback to ensure that we get it right. And we're going to try to get it right the first time. We're going to scale and have the capacity to respond quickly to any business changes. And we're going to use a lot of data and business intelligence to support the decisions and direction of the council. As we think about expansion, one of the initiatives we're working on is a customized CRM. We're planning to roll out a CRM at the end of Q1 in 2 phases. Phase 1 starts with a dedicated integration of our member services. What does that mean to you? It means we're going to be able to give our members you're already getting it, but more information, accessing procurement opportunities, tracking spend, just getting a lot of data that'll help you be in the right place at the right time. In terms of value, we're bringing a brand new website to you guys, so look out for that. It's going to be our single source of truth. And when we talk about a website rebuild, we're going to focus on having one main landing page and moving away from subsites. So everything is going to be housed in one place, moving away from the silos. Our focus is on collaborations. All our executions are going to be inclusive, very, very collaborative in nature because there's power in collaborations. We're going to work closely across all functions to ensure that our industry forums are helping our members, corporate members, and our MBEs capture opportunities and be in the right place at the right time. We're going to leverage on data and networks. We have a fantastic network of among us here, and it's important for us to capitalize on the shared experience we have and use that to really, really carve our space out. Data is an integral part of our way forward. And as we plan out the operational strategy for the rest of the year, it's going to be informed and supported by historic data and futuristic trends. We look forward to all that you do to support us. We've got a number of initiatives for the rest of the year. This is our first signature event, so thank you for attending it virtually. It was planned to be in person and we had to quickly pivot, but more to come. A great year ahead, and we look forward to doing all that we can do. And we thank you for trusting us. Now, over to Ingrid.
Hi, I want to come back and it's my pleasure to bring our next speaker, Constance Jones, which we all know and love and will always be part of our HMSDC family, is here to share insights with you on NMSDC and what's happening at the national level. During the registration process, we asked all of you to tell us what it is that would make this meeting valuable to you. And one of the recurring themes that we had was understanding what's happening at the national level and how that translates to the activities and the things that we're doing locally. So it's good to know people in high places. And so with that, I want to bring to you Constance Jones, Senior Director of Network Delivery Services for the National Minority Supplier Development Council.
Thank you, Ingrid. And as always, it's great to be back in front of the audience at HMSDC. I was listening to the information that was being shared in your level up, and I think it's very on point and aligned with what NMSDC is going to do for our next 50 years, and actually for the next 5 years, as we are very deliberate and intentional about growing minority businesses. So I'm excited to hear about your plan and see how, as a network, we're going to be able to facilitate this mission together. As Ingrid mentioned, I'm going to share with you a little bit about NMSDC's, next slide, NMSDC's strategy. So as you all know, Ying McGuire, our new CEO and president, came to NMSDC in the summer of last year. And she spent a lot of time trying to align how the NMSDC was going to create real value and be very intentional about growing and developing minority businesses while providing value to our major corporations are our customers. So what she did was actually look at creating some input channels in order to draft this new strategic plan. So we did a 90-minute listening tour where we met with each regional council president, board of directors chair, and MBIC chair to get their input from what's happening on the ground up. NMSDC could not do the wonderful things that we do as an unmatched organization without the support from our regional councils. So we needed to hear from them what was happening in the region and how could we better align and better assist in those specific areas. Ying held huddle with Yings with both our corporations and MBEs to understand what their pain points were and what they wanted to see for in the next future. We developed many partners with NGOs and government organizations. So you'll see that there's a huge advocacy push that NMSDC has now. We talked about it at our network leadership meetings that we've had to brainstorm on what some of those successes may look like. As I think one of the past leaders in HMSDC said, our success is actually your success. And so being able to really understand and help people get there is really what our focus tend to remain on. And last but not least, we did an EY study. So we did get EY to come in and talk about the different areas that we needed to look at as an organization in order to inhibit those barriers and what's stopping us from growing. So we looked at all of that information and created our strategic plan. Next slide. So in our listening tour, what I really wanted this slide to demonstrate is that across all of those different channels, there was really one thing that resonated to all of us, and it was very resounding, is that NMSDC needs to fix its technology. Technology was the common thread and common area that everyone said was a great opportunity for us to grow and really make a better connection across the regions, our corporate members, our MBEs, and the national office. So immediately, when we saw this result, we actually partnered with McKinsey, who's looking at doing an end-to-end technology solutions review from our internal technology all the way to what MBEs use to complete the certification process in order to ensure that we are being responsive and receptive to our members' needs. Next slide.
So we went through several iterations of a strategic planning sessions with stakeholders, with the executive leadership team in the national office, in order to really understand how do we put a plan together that's one, achievable, that we can actually realize, but have some measurable goals behind it that we can get people excited and activated behind what it is that we're trying to do. And so we went through these 7 steps to actually redefine who we are. NMSDC this year is turning 50 years. And although we've made some strides in this conversation, we know that there's a lot more opportunity for us to make a true and real commitment. And so we redefined what that will look like for us collectively as a unit for the next 50 years, and understand where some of those challenges may be prohibiting us, and what is it that we can do to really be stronger advocates for our businesses so that we can really grow and develop our organization. We created a roadmap that actually outlined what some of those new programs and initiatives are that's going to happen at the national level in order to support those mission and values and goals. We looked at, do we have enough staff and resource in the governance structure to be of benefit? And then we created a scorecard that everyone will be measured on as it relates to moving our targets for the next 5 years. Next slide. So this was our redefined mission, vision, and value. And what I really want you to get out of that was, for the first time ever, NMSDC made a true statement on why we are here. And we are here to grow minority businesses and to create value for our major corporations. That is a totally different mantra and change for what we have focused on in the previous 50 years. So what you're going to see now that everyone is open to the conversation to talk about economic parity, to talk about building generational wealth in communities of color, is that we're at the table actually enhancing that conversation, but really putting a focus and holding our corporate members and other MBEs accountable about how we're going to do that moving forward, and ensuring that we're just not saying the talk, but we're walking the walk and we're implementing strategies that's going to support that. Next slide. So these are our goals. And so we're really narrowing down, one of the comments that we were in a meeting, and Archie from Houston said, y'all are doing too much. It was like, that's not even achievable. And so what we did was went back and really looked at what are those 4 things that we will do and we will do well. And so we're looking at enhancing our client and customer success. So one of the things that we heard as we were doing the tour is many MBEs don't understand the value they receive by being part of a national organization. So we're looking at not only changing that just here locally, but look at how do we help you enhance and grow globally through other partners and relationships. So we want to make sure that we're responsive, we're providing wraparound services to your organizations, and we're helping you grow and expand both locally, nationally, and globally. We're looking to drive one NMSDC to drive operational excellence. So I think going right after Sabita was excellent, because everyone needs to focus on operations. We have to look inside ourselves to ensure that we are actually facilitating and doing the work that our MBEs and corporations need us to do in order for them to be a true economic engine powerhouse in our organization. We're going to promote economic equity. And so one of the conversations that we're having with our corporate members and government officials is that as we are growing in the number of minorities, we need to see that exponential growth in the types of opportunities that are being made available to minority businesses. And we're not saying that non-minority businesses have to lose at the expense of minority businesses. What we are saying is that we need to have the same protections, rights, and opportunities opportunities and be at the table to have those discussions so that people understand that doing business with minority-owned firms is more than just the right thing to do. It actually leads to better efforts, a holistic ecosystem, and really help catapult that growth and equity parity that we're looking for. And last but not least, we're going to achieve financial sustainability. So that's more of an internal goal to ensure that we have the foundation and we're strong enough in order to really remain and be that one voice for minority business development. Next slide. So here's the 5-year roadmap that we actually created in draft, and you'll see that each of that actually is leading to our road to 1 trillion. So Ying is definitely a visionary. She definitely believes that together we can accomplish these goals, but how do we do that, right, on this type of scale? And so the biggest part is to break these down by yearly goals so that you can see the type of achievable work that we're looking at doing. This work will take all of us in order to really reach that $1 trillion road for minority businesses. And so a lot of these items that we have as a baseline is actually some of the work that HMSDC just reported that they're doing. So I'm really excited to hear that HMSDC is still remaining one of the leading organizations that's really promoting that growth for minority businesses. Next slide. So our pillars of excellence. So normally our pillars were certify, develop, connect, and advocate. But you'll see when Ying came aboard, she was like, with advocacy, everything else is possible. So one of the things that Ingrid mentioned was the bill that happened that President Biden signed, the infrastructure bill, where we're actually trying to advocate for MBE designation at the federal government level. And Ying's appointment to the SBA's national committee is really helping lead that charge. We have hired a wonderful organization who's going to help lobby on behalf of that. But we're looking at making sure that we have a voice at the table with policymakers, not just at the local level, but also at the highest level of government. And we're wanting that to cascade down to our regional councils so they can also advocate at a state and local level. And so having that voice, having that advocacy is really what's going to help make this road to 1 trillion a success. And of course, we're going to continue to certify as the gold standard. McKinsey is also doing a project for us to look at the end-to-end results of the certification process, not just certification, but also recertification. So we're looking at seeing how much of that we can actually automate. Are we asking the right questions? Are we requesting the right documents in order to ensure that we are still certifying and being the leading organization as it relates to certification? We're enhancing our MBE capabilities and competitiveness through development resources. We're doing a lot of partnering with other organizations because we don't want to recreate the wheel, and we want to stay really focused and deliberate and intentional on how we're going to grow our MBEs. And then we're connecting. So we're going to continue to connect those MBEs to the right corporate members, either tier 1 or tier 2, in order to ensure that there's opportunities for all. What you see on the right-hand side is just like we have external goals, we have internal goals that's really helping create and change the infrastructure at the national office to be able to holistically support our partners, regional councils, our clients, our MBEs, and our customers, our corporate members. Next slide. So what was our approach and how to get all of this done? So HMSDC engaged with several organizations to help identify those initiatives and mapping them to their level of importance and prioritization. That was very key to us because, of course, there was a lot of things that we needed to do, but we always kept what Archie said in mind. That's too much. you're not going to be able to accomplish all of that in 1 year and be great at it. We're not trying to be good. We're trying to be great. We're trying to be very deliberate and making results for our businesses. And so that's the first step we did into understanding how do we need to prioritize these initiatives. Then we went through and actually mapped them to the pillars of excellence that I just went through with you, and then identified key initiatives that's really going to stay aligned in that. We love to look at the shiny objects that people are bringing to us, but now we're going to look at, we may be able to do those shiny objects, but we're going to look at when we do them, because we have some high priorities that we need to definitely get through first in order for us to be successful in the work that we're doing. And then we're aligned the immediate quick wins so that we can ensure that people are actually recognizing all of the hard work that we're actually doing together in order to make real change happen in this space. Next. So what does it mean for our clients or our MBEs? We're talking about intentional opportunity and growth. So we have two approaches. We have a low touch approach that's going to happen via technology. So that's that automated certification process we're talking about. We're looking at an intelligent MBE assessment and development tool, access to capital, contracts, and accountability for our corporate members. And then we have a high touch approach where we're actually creating a new division at HMSDC that's going to fully focus on MBE growth. We're having a entrepreneur in residence who's actually going to lead that. And so we're looking at someone who's actually been an entrepreneur, been in your shoes, and taken a firm from a stage 1 company all the way to an IPO status, so that they understand your pain points and can be a real coach and understanding to the needs that we need to implement in order to really make impact. And then we're looking at ways to find, nurture, and grow MBEs in gap areas. So one of the things we hear from our corporate members all the time is that we don't have the right MBEs, or they need another market of MBEs. And so HMSDC is actually going to go and look for those firms and be able to work with the organizations to grow those efforts within our organization. Next slide. What does it mean for our corporate members or our customers? It's going to be high value to our corporate members. So we're going to look at, again, intelligent technology for qualifying MBEs. One of the things you hear Ying say all the time is, if Match.com can match personal relationships, why can't we have a Match.com in HMSDC that's creating those opportunities for MBEs? And so we're going to look at that type of technology in order to enhance the communities that we serve in order to help our corporate members. We're looking at potentially doing a universal database for a one-stop shop for you to come for all diverse suppliers. So you're not going to have to go to different NGOs in order to find that one specific need. So we're thinking out of the box and creative in order to ensure that we remain relevant and we're your partner as we move forward. Next slide. And then what does it mean for our network? So we, again, cannot do this without our regional councils and our boots on the ground. And so short term, what we're looking at doing is aligning the roles and responsibilities so there's a clear SLA between the national office and the regionals, and we understand what those expectations are. We're actually recapturing some of that institutional knowledge within the organization that's allowing us to have a stronger network and be able to work cohesively to march towards one message and one goal. Long term, we have a board chair task force that is looking at the holistic approach of how we're going to move forward as a regional council. And are we going to stay as 23 regions, or are we going to look at a different model? Don't know what that looks like today, but what we are focused on today is creating that value for our MBEs and ensuring that we're here for our corporate partners. Next slide. So we have two events that are coming up and celebrating our 50th anniversary. We have our Minority Business Economic Forum. It was our Leadership Awards or dinner dance, but now we're changing our focus. We want to be very deliberate and intentional about what we're doing and the types of events that we're having to ensure it has real value. So this event is May 11th and 13th. We're going back to Chicago where NMSDC was founded. And so we're looking at that opportunity. Next slide. And then, of course, our national conference, which is October 30th through November 2nd in New Orleans. Next slide. This is just our calendar of events that Ingrid and her team will definitely be able to share with you. Next slide. And then this year we have a 50 for 50 campaign. So our mission throughout this year and going forward is advancing economic equity together. So we're looking at how do we engage our corporate members and our foundation support to create a $50 million endowment fund for the next 50 years. So we're making sure that the infrastructure is in place for not just the national office, but also for our local affiliates to ensure that we continue to do this work and do this work well. And so we encourage you to contact the national office if you're interested in learning more about our 50 for 50 endowment fund and how that's going to relate to your particular organization. Thank you for your participation.
All right, so we are at our Q&A time, and it's time for Q&A with the leadership. So we're going to have my leadership team, and Constance will be on the line. So thank you for sharing all that information. I told Constance on yesterday, we're going to limit questions just to NMSDC. So make sure that you direct as many questions as you can to her while we have her. You have access to us all the time. But this is a Q&A that's open to all of you. We'll ask you to raise your hand. And Selena Gonzalez on our team is going to help facilitate Q&A. She will unmute you so that you can ask your question to whoever you'd like to ask, and we'll respond, and then she'll mute you back and go on to the next one so that we can make sure we get through as many questions as we possibly can. So with that, we'll open up Q&A. Do we have any questions so far, Selena?
We currently don't have anybody with their hands up. However, Ms. Siba did make some wonderful questions. So I am going to allow her to speak and ask some of those.
I'm glad to see that we're being that thorough, that we don't have any questions. I'm sure that's not the case. But while Selena checks on those, and I'll let her chime in whenever she has one up and ready and queued for us. But Constance, let me ask this question. One of the questions that was submitted to us from NMSDC is going back again to that infrastructure project. And you mentioned that Ying is on the National SBA committee, and we shared that information through our weekly alert. But as the money gets transitioned down, when you mentioned that she's advocating, or NMSDC is advocating for an MBE designation, is that, can you explain a little bit more about what that means? Does that mean that money comes down to the states or the cities, and they have to ensure that there's MBE participation in projects related to that, or do we have an idea of sort of what that looks like?
Yeah, thanks. That's an excellent question, Ingrid. So I think there's a couple things. So right now, what happened was President Biden said that he wanted to increase the amount of participation to MBEs to 15%. Well, the government doesn't have an MBE designation. So how is he going to do that? What's the accountability for that? And so without having that particular designation, there's no way to really track and support. So when we look at the government certifications, they are based on personal net worth. But if you're talking about the trillions of dollars that are coming out in the infrastructure bill, a small business with those limitations really can't compete. They don't have the capacity in order to do that unless they're forced to grow really significantly or create an alliance with the majority organization. So what we are advocating for at the national office is to add an MBE designation, just like the woman-owned designation, so that it includes more opportunity for firms that have capacity that comes to NMSDC, as Ingrid demonstrated in that chart, that we have the ability to do business and we can meet those needs. And that's the only way you're going to get that level of spend with minority and women and ethnically owned businesses. And so not only are we looking at putting that language, Ingrid, as you mentioned, in the contract for second tier, but we're also looking at that designation as a whole. Is that if there's one for women, there's one for veteran, let's do one for minority businesses. And we know that's a big, hairy, audacious goal. We know that that's a great ask, but this is the right moment in order to capitalize on that. With the murder of George Floyd and all of the other tragedies that happened over the last year and a half, this is the time where people are willing to come to the table and have those conversations and maximize what we can provide. And so that's why it's so utterly important as a network that we come together and work together in order to realize this achievable goal.
I think that's just phenomenal, because you're right. I think that when you look at all of those goals, you know, minority businesses just sort of gets lumped in with small business, and minority business is not the same as any old small business. And so being able to advocate for that is going to be essential for us as those dollars come down. So we thank you for that effort. One more question, and then I think we may have one coming in, or I'll go to Selena. Selena, make sure you jump in at any moment that you need to. But as we look at the growth initiative, so you talked about growing businesses, and I know, you know, you're our network's sort of certification guru. And so we're talking about building capacity, and that's something that we're really focused on. And I know it's focused on across the network. What should our MBEs know here in Houston about the growth initiative, and what they should do if they think that their company is a good target for that program?
Thank you, Ingrid. So the Growth Initiative is a certification program that was created only by NMSDC and still recognized by NMSDC corporate members only, to really allow firms that take on equity investment and lower their ownership percentage from 51% to 25%. This is a way that we're looking at creating growth opportunities through equity and not debt, but still allowing you to take advantage of your certification designation. What this really means for MBEs in the Houston area and across the network is that there's another opportunity once you get to a certain point in your business and you have to look at either succession planning and you're looking at selling or acquiring other businesses. You could actually look at selling your firm to another minority business or a private equity firm in order to keep you in the ecosystem. It also provides those businesses that may have a great technology, but is struck by the need for access to capital. So if you fit in those areas and you're looking at different ways in order to stay relevant and or increase your capacity and need financial opportunity, please feel free to reach out to NMSDC to learn more about the Growth Initiative so that we can help you understand how to stay in the network and still be meaningful and be a tier 1 supplier to our corporate members.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So Selena, I know that you have some questions, so I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much. Our first question comes from Ms. Ziba.
Great.
I don't know. I can hear you talking, but we can't hear you.
Good morning. Thank you. This is Ziba from Calpine. Can you hear me okay?
Can we try that again?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Nope.
No, we can't. Oh, vaguely.
Good morning. This is Ziba from Calpine
Okay,
Corporation.
so
Can you
we
hear me
have
okay?
Let's try and
technology
type
things.
the question.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna, I think we have one coming in from Ziba with Calpine.
Good morning,
Ziba?
Ingrid. Can you hear me okay? Hello.
Is Ziba unmuted? Are we able to hear Ziba?
Hi, my line is unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, can we type the question in so that we can get that question and kind of get the answer started while you guys figure out sort of what's happening with the technology? See, this is why we needed to be in person. So not only could I get my hugs, but you know, I would be able to, we can hear this directly and answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have seen nothing takes the place of having an in-person.
Face-to-face.
We love virtual, we love the pivot, but that impersonal touch just means the world.
I know. Okay, so I see one got typed in here for us, and it says, Constance, yay. Who is the primary contact for corporations at NMSDC?
So every corporation that's a member of NMSDC actually has an ambassador, a corporate ambassador. And depending on who your corporate ambassador is, that's who your primary contact is in corporate relations, now called member success. So if you don't know who that is, please feel free to reach out to me. Ingrid or one of the staff members can put my email address in chat. Not sure how that works.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. They could put my information in chat. You could reach out to me and I'll make sure I connect you with your corporate ambassador.
All right. So next question, again, I think that this one, I guess I'll let TJ weigh in and Constance. I see the question about certification. So this is for our annual meeting is open to everyone. So it says, how do I get certified? It says at the national level. And so I think that that's sort of a two-parter, right? Depending. So I'll let TJ start off with that, and then Constance will let you go back to the other piece.
Sure. As a regional affiliate, HMSDC, once you're certified with HMSDC, you are certified at the national level. And so we adhere to the MSDC guidelines. And so once you're part of the family, you're part of the 23 regional councils as well as national.
And Constance.
And Thomas is absolutely correct. So your NMSDC is responsible for creating the certification policy. The regional officers deliver on that policy. So your regional council is the one who will actually certify you. And then that makes you a part of the national organization, which gives you the privilege to do business across the U.S. without necessarily having a presence or a brick and mortar in those areas in which you want to do business.
So I think, and as we said, we will put in the contact information and we'll send it. So if you are interested in a growth initiative, if that was what the question was about, then you would reach out to Constance at the national office and she would be able to help you through the national growth initiative certification process. But you must be certified at your local council here in Houston first before you go into the national growth initiative process.
Absolutely. You have to be certified at your regional council for at least 1 year before you can apply for the growth initiative at the national office.
All right. And so I have a question for Sabita. In terms of the technology and our signature events, how will that be able to enable MBEs to capture what you talked about, a better customer experience?
So we have a number of initiatives that we're running right now. I believe a critical part of our collaborative space would live in our CRM. We are really taking our time to cover that whole customer experience within the CRM ecosystem. It will be a connected place where data is shared seamlessly between our members, our minority business enterprises, and our corporate members. And I think when we're done with phase 2, because we're launching it in different phases, by the end of phase 2, we should be able to have, or the intention is to have our minority businesses jumping in and finding opportunities that match what they do within the corporate member segment. Apart from that, we're also tracking industry data that will be plugged into there. So it's not just what's within our ecosystem. We're also looking, working with a number of external bodies and getting data that's going to be living in that system. So it's going to be a holistic data information system that's going to really help our MBEs and our corporate members work together.
So Angela, I know I'm gonna give you the last question and then we're gonna move on to the next part of our program. If you have other questions, we will capture those and answer those and provide a Q&A section in our quarterly report and our Q1 quarterly report to you, and make sure that we get out answers to those in attendance prior to that. But Angela, one of the questions when we asked during registration, what are all of the what would make this meeting valuable? And of course, you would expect from our MBEs that the big question came about business opportunities, or how do I connect to the corporate members of HMSDC? So can you answer that question? You're on mute, Angie.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. So the connection with our corporate members reside with corporate services. One thing we want to do is make sure that our MBEs have the capability and the capacity to service the needs of corporations. Once you're certified with HMSDC, we do ask for you to submit your capability statement. That gives us an opportunity to review the industry you're in, and as well as your past performance. Then I would sit down with you and understand exactly what is it that you like to service our corporations with. Do you have the capacity to do so, and what are your expectations? Based off of that information, and you're able to select the 3 types of corporations you like to meet with, I'll reach out to those corporations, provide them with your capability statement, and I will sit down with them as well to understand exactly what their needs are. One thing that we ask for our corporations is to allow introductory meetings. So these meetings is not so much about the opportunity right here, right now. It's to expose our MBEs to corporations that are in the industry that they do not know about. Give them an opportunity to meet their internal stakeholders as well. So it's all about relationship building and awareness. Based off of that, we're hoping to be able to forecast early what opportunities are within the corporations and provide a match. We're also working on numerous matchmakers throughout the year. Usually we have one matchmaker, which is the one-to-one sessions and expo. But we've changed that since we're leveling up. We will have matchmakings every other month within our industry forums. And this gives another opportunity of building a relationship and awareness. Also, we're asking, as I stated before, our corporation government entities to provide us a forecast. What's coming down the pipeline? Look into the future. Sit down with your procurement team and see what their strategic plan is and how you can implement supply diversity in the process early. So by doing that, I'm sitting down with our corporations, do our corporate review, and truly understanding where they are in the space of minority business development and increasing their minority goals, and how HMSDC can assist. So we're doing connections throughout the year. Once you're certified with HMSDC, you receive the value of your regional as well as your national. We'll also engage with our nationals and water coolers, as they call them, which every time there's a new corporation coming aboard with national, we're at the table sitting down with them, understanding where their needs are for minority businesses. So HMSDC don't just source locally for our Houston business, we're sourcing nationally. Always say we're a national organization. We work very closely with national. We are happy to have Constance there. So that's our homegirl, as we call her. So she is our true connector. So being engaged with Constance is extremely important, and we're working together on a national level in order to increase minority businesses.
Okay. Thank you. So I want to thank all you panelists. I see a ton of questions that have come in, so we'll make sure that we answer those questions and get them out to you. But for the sake of time, and we're already running a little bit behind, so I hope that you'll be able to stay with us just a little bit longer. But we want to make sure that you're able to hear from our standing committee. So thank you, panelists, for answering questions, and we appreciate it. So we're going to move forward with the presentation, and we're going to go to hearing from our standing committee chairs. We're going to start with our corporate committee. So with us today, we have Monica Campana. She is the chair of the Supplier Diversity Advisory Committee, also known as SDAC. And Monica will tell you a little bit about SDAC.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes? Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Monica Campana, Director of Supplier Diversity at Lone Star College, and I'm helping to lead the Supplier Diversity Advisory Committee along with Linda Graves from Centergy. So it is a pleasure to be part of HMSDC and collaborate in such a great mission to utilizing more MBEs and all these strategies to engage everyone. As everyone was mentioning, leveling up, right? So we're excited to share with you a little bit an overview of our SDAC plan of work. The committee is driven to help enhance the best practices in procurement and supplier diversity and support corporate members and MBEs to strengthen alliances and be aware of all business opportunities available. It's like a switch of focus because before we were trying to enhance our supplier diversity programs, but we have learned that it's better to focus on the procurement process and be a process and not a program. So in our first meeting that we had in January, we had such a great collaboration from all corporate members. And I know that with teamwork, I'm sure we can achieve anything. We have decided to conform subcommittees that will help us all to be involved and focus on our new strategies. The first one is the Corporate Ambassador Program that will help new members to acclimate to HMSDC cultures, programs, and events. We have a second subcommittee called the Continuous Improvement that is designed to promote and share best practices. We are developing a library and toolkit for supplier diversity peers to enhance their programs and engagement with procurement. The third subcommittee is the procurement process documentation with the inclusion of supplier diversity. We have found that it's really important for supplier diversity to integrate the procurement process and not only to be a program, as I said before. The other subcommittee is the program manager meeting designed to assist HMSDC corporate members in establishing all business goals and objectives. Also, we have the Prime Engagement Subcommittee that works to increase the exposure of prime contractors to the MBEs and increasing corporate participation and engagement. Also, SDAC is responsible for judging the Supplier of the Year and Strategic Teaming Awards presented at the Regal Awards during Expo. So as you can see, our strategy focuses in engagement, participation, sharing best practices, and most of all, transforming a supplier diversity program into a procurement process. So that's what we're gonna work with. We're very excited and also leveling up. Thank you, Ingrid. I'll let Ray now.
Hello, thank you, Monica. My name is Nanette Ray, and I am MBEIC Chair. I am President and CEO of TNR Advisors and Management Consultants. And so MBEIC is just that, it's the input committee for MBEs. And so our purpose is to maintain the pulse of the needs of the minority business owners. So I serve as your voice on the board of directors in terms of what the MBE needs are. Next slide, please. So when talking to MBEs, one of the main things that I hear is opportunities. We want access to opportunities. But there's a process to doing that. And so keeping in line with the theme of level up, we're looking at leadership first. So we really want to spend time this year recognizing the excellence of our MBEs that they're doing in the community, but also providing input to the HMSDC leadership team as well. Input on the programs and initiatives. Ingrid had talked earlier about the 575. So the 575 piece, 5 events, 7 MBE development programs, and 5 marketplace connectors. We want to make sure that MBE's voices are heard about how those are going and provide feedback to the leadership team. Also really excited about Ying McGuire as the new leader and CEO of the National MSDC. She's been very interested in listening to the voices of MBEs. Some of the things that Constance talked about, the growth initiative, things like that, MBEs and the MBIC chairs have been able to provide some input on that. But in addition to that, the MBEs also help to decide on the corporate awards. So Helping Hands, Advocate of the Year, all of those corporate awards, Supplier of the Year, we as MBEs get to decide that. Our next level is expansion, our MBE Ambassador Program. We're really excited about that. As a new MBE, you get signed an MBE Ambassador to help you really be able to successfully develop relationships and engage with HMSDC to grow your business. So if you're interested in opportunities, being active in the council is really an important part of growing and developing those opportunities. We're also developing an ambassador orientation kit to make sure that our ambassador program is consistent amongst all of our ambassadors, so MBEs get the same great experience in increasing their success for utilizing HMSDC services. Now, when we talk about value, we're looking at MBE targeted marketing. Some of the things that are coming down the pipeline is really being able to utilize and take the valuable tools that HMSDC has created in our toolbox to help develop MBEs. Angela talked a lot about capacity and making sure that we have the capacity to be able to handle the projects with corporations. So they have developed a lot of items that we want to make sure that we focus on this year and that MBEs take advantage of. Some of those will include an MBE directory, a corporate directory, and a professional services directory. But in addition to that, Angela had also mentioned procurement forecast. Again, we want to know as MBEs when projects are coming down the pipeline, so that we know about them early and that we're preparing prior to the RFP being submitted. And also to grow our businesses as well. So the next is execution. We've implemented MBE mixers that are going to be quarterly. We want to definitely encourage that as MBEs, we get to know each other, because we do business with people that we know and trust. So we're going to be having quarterly MBE mixers. So more information to come on that, but really allowing MBEs to increase their network and create and build relationships that could create opportunities for them. And then last but not least is leverage, MBE to MBE, not only focusing on corporate spend with MBEs, but we want to encourage MBEs to do business together. And so that's part of the reason why we want to do the MBE mixers, but we really want to focus on increasing our businesses by doing business together. So if you are an MBE and certified with HMSDC, please reach out to the council. We've got a lot of work to do this year, and we definitely would like to see you participate. So I'll pass it on to Franklin over the mic.
Thank you, Nanette, and good afternoon, or good morning, everyone. And it's a pleasure to join you here on behalf of the City of Houston. I serve within our contract compliance team, and I'm the chair of the Marketplace Committee. As you have well heard, HMSDC is ready, is focused, and well is able. And I'm happy on behalf of the Marketplace that we're here to help make that happen. So let's talk about the Marketplace Committee and what we do and why we do what we do. So today it serves and it acts as a bridge between the minority businesses, the MBEs, and our corporate members. It facilitates the process of strategic and intentional matching that has been well discussed this morning of between the MBEs as well as our corporate members. Not only the aim is also to increase the MBEs to MBEs, establish those relationships, and for the corporate to the MBEs commerce. So let's take a look at that, our plan of work. As it's been focused on, and the model for this year is level up. As we focus on the leadership, our expansion, value, execution, and leveraging, first within the Marketplace Committee, we focus on our industry forums. We recognize it's pivotal for the development of the MBEs to come together, network, share ideas, and talk about relevant issues that impact them, their scope of services, as well as our corporate partners. It gives them also a platform to engage with our stakeholders' engagements. And that vehicle drives the outward perception of the council as that from the marketplace standpoint. And it also allows for the businesses to be focused on and identified throughout the various industry. The other aspect, it serves as a safe place for our corporate members and our MBEs to talk in an intangible way, yet critical about what's before them, what's to come, and how they can be engaged with opportunities coming down the pipelines. Then we take a look at increasing the collaborations and those opportunities. So within HMSDC, it's specifically designed for our segment with those industry forums that we just talked about, how to do business, and those lead conversations from our corporations to our MBEs. And it's allowing us also, as it was talked about earlier, focusing on best practice guides, RFP strategies, supplier diversity requirements, as well as opportunities for procurement and prime supplier details. Allow them to lock and load hand in hand to ensure they're receiving that invitation and coming to the table with our corporate partners. Then we focus on develop, advocate, and connect. The marketplace is that incubator, and those fundamental pillars allows the marketplace to bring our MBEs together as well as our corporate partners. Further from that, we also talk about and promote and highlight those success stories within the MBEs. As we focus as coaches and mentors, the success stories allow us through the marketplace to tell that story and catapult our MBEs and be put in the front on what has happened and celebrate them in their success. And finally, through leverage, we put the importance of collaboration. The format for the HMSDC through the collaboration in the marketplace is so that our businesses, our MBEs can work hand in hand within the marketplace committee and showcase through our other partnering committees with SEDAC and MBEIC as they move together with opportunities and collaboration. So clearly, our committees and our subcommittees work tangibly together, hand in hand, so that we can showcase, highlight, and share those opportunities within our MBEs. We continue through this 2022 model up to level up, so that, as Ingrid has shared earlier, in terms of our service promise, making sure our MBEs are able to come together in a positive manner with positive engagement. Thank you. And next up, I will be bringing to the table, let's see, I believe Tom may be coming up after me, Tom Sampler.
Hey. I'm gonna go just before Tony. Thank you very much, Karen, for sharing the wonderful updates on the Marketplace Committee. Today, I'd like to express Lainey Corral's apologies for being unable to attend, and I'm just going to walk you through the Scholarship Fundraiser Committee. The Scholarship Fundraiser Committee is set up to raise funds, and this committee has a number of plans and initiatives. Our big signature event is our golf tournament, the annual fundraiser, and it maximizes connections and builds a fund that really supports HMSDC development initiatives and all the approved programs that are that sit outside of HMSDC's internal programs. These developmental initiatives really help our MBEs to scale up their businesses, and you're going to learn more about some of these programs when my colleague Jane comes on later, and you're going to see some of the proud graduates we have. As we push on, I'm going to share some key highlights from our for our 2022 fundraiser in terms of our targets. Like everybody else, we've got goals, and I firmly believe that we cannot manage what we don't measure. So KPIs are very strategic in measuring our success. Our revenue target for the 2022 scholarship fundraiser is $100,000. Our MBE sponsorship, we're looking for our MBEs to be an integral part of this. So we're hoping that we're going to have a 35% participation of revenues contributed by our MBEs. Our goal for the number of golfers this year is 175, and that includes our clinics. Last year, we had a record with donors, and I'd really like to name them. So, you know, we had support from Baker, we had Calpine, we had so many others, and we look towards you guys supporting us again this year for our silent auction. We raised $7,000 last year, and this year we've stretched it a bit to $10,000. And we're also looking towards your support in donating events like food and drinks at the annual golf tournament. More to come, and stay tuned to our Facebook page, our Instagram page, LinkedIn, and website as we continue sharing updates on this. Okay, so I know Tony is with us, and he should be jumping in anytime soon, but I'll just kind of walk you through Tony's presentation. And Tony, if you're here, let me know when you can join me. Our Expo committee is headed up by Tony Sample. The Expo Business Opportunity Marketplace is our largest minority business trade fair and business connection event within the state of Texas. Due to COVID, we've had to push it online last year, and this year we're looking at a hybrid structure, and more to come on this. This committee assists in the planning and implementation of Expo and all of its related events. I think Tony is here. Karen, is Tony in the back studio? If not, I'll just share the highlights. So our 2022 KPIs for Expo, revenue target, we're looking at $250,000. Hey, Tony, how are you? Welcome. There we go. I was pretending to be Tony for a while. Big shoes to fill, but you're up.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Tony Samper, chair of the Expo Committee, and together with my co-chair, Ruby Reynolds, and the HMSC staff, we plan and execute Expo. And Savita, did you go already on the slide that says Expo?
Did walk through that, but you're welcome to jump in and talk about your committee a bit. That's fine.
Well, thank you. We have big expectations for 2022. Our revenue target this year is $250,000. We intend to grow the sponsorship about 50% over 2021. We're going to increase the number of corporate exhibitors that will be meeting with MBEs and providing opportunities. We're targeting 85 corporate exhibitors, and we expect close to 500 or a little bit over 500 MBEs and corporate individuals in attendance. If you are interested in joining the Expo committee, we plan and execute Expo, and we meet on the Sunday of every month, and you are more than welcome to join us and help us provide opportunities for MBEs. Thank you for your attendance, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve HMSDC and my fellow MBEs. Next, please.
All right, so Tony, thank you for sharing that, and I hope that you guys enjoyed your hearing from our leaders. I know we're a little bit behind, but we are wrapping it up and coming close to the end. We are now going to be moving forward with our MBE development specialist, Jane Bowe, who will be taking over and give a very, very brief overview of Pathways to Excellence and take us through our graduation.
All right, good morning, everyone. And I am very excited today to present the graduates of this past year's cohorts of Pathways to Excellence program, also lovingly known as P2E to all of us. P2E is a self-assessment and technical training program that allows MBEs to evaluate their company against national and international standards and requirements that large corporations and governmental entities use to evaluate their potential suppliers. Utilizing the Blue Wave Supplier Development Platform, MBEs are able to identify these gaps and then participate in a series of workshops led by Eduardo Nunez and his partner Alma Del Toro that will supply participants with the knowledge and tools to close the gaps, making them corporate ready. But before I introduce our graduates, I would like to welcome Ms. Kathy Hall, the president of A Time for Marketing, to share her experience in the Pathways to Excellence program. Kathy, your mic.
You guys didn't hear that great intro there. Well, hello, my HMSDC friends and family. My name is Kathy Hall. I'm the president and founder of A Time for Marketing. I'm a multi-channel marketing consultancy helping organizations make meaningful messages mighty. And my mission is to facilitate the delivery of valuable communications that empower audiences with the knowledge of organizations, products, and services that improve the conditions of individuals, communities, and the environment overall. Guess what? That mission statement came out of one of the first core pillars I learned from Pathway to Excellence. When I first learned about the program, I was interested, and after I attended the information session, I could see how an MBE could be better equipped for corporate procurement. But I was somewhat intimidated because my business is small, although growing. So I was concerned if it was the right time for me to enroll at this stage of my business. What I love about HMSDC is there's never a question that's too small. And because I'm active in some of the HMSDC committees, I've spoken to and interacted with the staff, so I was comfortable asking for help. I reached out to HMSDC and asked for a past Pathway to Excellence participant that I could talk to about the program. And without hesitation, they connected me to an MBE that spoke glowingly about the program and even attributed their growth and increased success in her business from the learnings that she took and implemented from the Pathway to Excellence program. I was convinced and I enrolled. From the very first session to the last, I felt as though I was transported into the boardroom of major corporations, hearing the 7 key pillars that frame the business processes of successful corporations. The homework was invaluable as I worked diligently to develop and institute these pillars into my own business. I will not hide, Pathway to Excellence was a huge sacrifice of time and effort, first to attend every session and then to complete the assignments, but the rewards have been worth it. Understanding what corporations prioritize and modeling these concerns gives me the confidence to present my business to corporate procurement or any purchasing executive, that I will be somewhat prepared for questions in each of these areas. I also have a framework to develop a richer and a stronger business plan, and it's given me clearer goals for my business. Thank you so much, HMSDC, for making this program available. It truly epitomizes your mission, which is to actively involve members in efforts that is going to increase and expand business opportunities and to drive excellence in supplier diversity and supplier development. Please, every MBE, whether you're small or large, that hasn't considered Pathway to Excellence, attend the informational session on February 15th, and then commit the time and resources necessary to take full advantage of this opportunity. It is a wise investment. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I didn't even have to pay your guys to talk about the information session. So now let's present our graduates. We have James Alexander from Expert WSI e-marketing, Jeff Baker from Socium Solutions LLC, Pamela Brown from HR Technology Consultants LLC, Candy Bayal from Subcat Services LLC, Samuel Caban from Product Quality Management LLC, Jacqueline Camphor from Essentials Consulting LLC, Barbara Charles from Perfection Staffing, Evelyn Fletcher from Electronics Assembly Services Inc., Michael Fontaine from Falcon Project Consultants LLC, Vijay Gaduraju, Avivo Tech Inc., Dale Groves from DWG CPA PLLC, Raya Gauraswamy from Mixari, formerly of Energy Funds, Kathy Hall from A Time for Marketing, Maurice Hamilton from Infinovate Consultancy Services LLC, Mike Homa from Gap Engineering Inc., Michael Keys from SK Industries, The Valve Company, Deanna Laster from Deanna Michelle Inc., Ashley Martin from Leadership Lady, here we go, Alexia McClurkin from the Sports and Wellness Doc, Gwen Mitchell from Third Eye Business Solutions, Calvin Peters from Via Engineering Services LLC, Roger Pombrell from Emerald Standards, Electrical Contractors and Engineers, Centrell Reed from Creed Global Media, Taria Richmond from Taria Richmond, Your Total Health Doctor, Chauncey Shaw from Shaw Express LLC, Sherrard Thomas from Linkverse Technologies Inc., Sean Vaughn from Vaughn Media LLC, Joseph Vigier from Vision Crane and Industrial Support LLC, Danielle Whittingham from Absentia Global, and Michael Zhang from iEnvironeer Engineering Consultants. Please give a round of applause for all of your Pathways to Excellence graduates. And last, if you're interested in being part of our next graduating class for P2E, please feel free to sign up for the upcoming information session that Kathy already mentioned. It's on Tuesday, February 15th at 2 p.m. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to send an email to me at mbedevelopment@hmsdc.org or call me at our office number extension 108. Or if you are ready already, feel free to use that link right there to apply to the program. And thank you so much. And last, I would like to introduce and turn it over to Archie Meyer, HMSDC Board Chairman.
Hi, Archie. Sorry, we can't hear you. I don't think your volume is up. Nope, not yet. Oh, no. Nope. Since COVID, I've gotten really good at reading lips, though, but No. Might try the mute at the bottom.
How about now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today. On behalf of the board, just going to have a few closing remarks, and we'll let everybody go. As you may have seen, we've got a lot of exciting programming going on this year, and a really big piece of this is working out a strategy to optimize our transformation, focus on capacity building, and of course, the financial viability of our MBEs, and then demonstrate value to our stakeholders. And also, we've worked, we had a board retreat, very good from our board, and we're looking for more engagement from our board, visibility and attendance at events, and get to know you all as our stakeholders and our MBEs more this year. For those that are looking for our programs, we'll scan it for a bit. We'll leave this for a bit. You can scan those QR codes, just take a screenshot there, and that'll get you over to our website to let you know about the programs and upcoming events that we had. As the organization mentioned, we're going to be very intentional and impactful on our programming this year, and we look forward to more participation from the HMSDC family. Okay, next slide. All right, and of course, we wouldn't be here without the support of both our MBEs and our corporate members. So if you want to know more about opportunities to help with HMSDC and the work that we do, please scan this QR code and you will find more information on how you can engage with us and how we can engage with you. Signature event dates. Of course, annual meeting, that's happening as we speak. One of our more exciting events, March 10th, Emerging 10. We'll let you know whether that will be virtual or in person, but hopefully by May, we'll be back in person for our scholarship fundraiser. That'll be a great one. We played in the rain last year, looking for good weather this year, and all attendance. You don't need to be a golfer to attend that. Expo, September 28th and 29th. And then CPO Summit is coming up right after that on September 29th. That will be virtual, and you can see Expo will be a hybrid. A special thanks to our sponsors, MBN Texas, Minority and Multicultural Business News, Calpine, and Zones. Thank you very much for your support and for sponsoring this session today.
All right, so Archie, I want to thank you again for sharing and being such a great leader for us in this organization. And I want to thank all of you attendees for being here. I'm going to ask the staff to quickly join so that I know we showed their pictures earlier, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to see all of the people here in the council that work on a day-to-day basis to help you, both from a corporate perspective and an MBE perspective. So we want to invite you to help us level up, participate in HMSDC. You get out of this organization what you put in. And we look forward to engaging with you throughout the year. We're off to a fantastic start. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.